Hi all. What I'd like to show you here is in some of the homework problems, they'll be asking you to find the reference number, or what I've been calling t-bar, for numbers that aren't the nice numbers on the unit circle, numbers that aren't increments of pi over 6 or increments of pi over 4. So I'd like to just show you a couple examples of how to do those type of problems. So let's go ahead and draw our unit circle. So again, this is a circle of radius 1. So if I'm right here, I've traveled 0 units around the unit circle. I guess here this means our t would be equal to 0, or you could think that t would be equal to 2 pi. And 2 pi, say, is roughly 6.28. If I travel halfway along the circle, remember this is a circle of radius 1, so its circumference is 2 pi r, 2r is 1, so the whole entire circumference is 2 pi. Cut that in half. If I travel halfway along the circle, my t would be pi. Pi is roughly 3.14. Okay, if I cut that in half, I would have traveled a quarter around the circle, which is pi over 2 units. Pi over 2 units is roughly 1.57. And if I travel 1.5, or if I travel a distance of 3 pi over 2 around the circle, 3 pi over 2 is roughly 4.7. So let's say we want to find let's find t-bar for the following. Okay, so let's say that t is equal to 3.5. So if t is 3.5, I've traveled 3.5 units around the unit circle, so that puts me somewhere between 3.14 and 4.7. That means I'm in the third quadrant. So I'll just say, I don't know, let's say we're roughly right here. Maybe a different color. So here we've traveled roughly 3.5 units, and what we want to do here is we want to figure out what this distance here would be. This would be our t-bar. Now for each one of these is going to be a little bit different. So for this one, if I want to figure out what t-bar is, well, if this entire distance here is 3.5 and I want to figure out this distance, what I could do is notice that the distance from here to here is pi. So if I take the whole distance of 3.5 and subtract pi, I should get what t-bar should be here. So for this example, our t-bar is going to be equal to the 3.5, and we're going to subtract pi. We can use our calculator for this. So let's see. So 3.5. Notice our pi button is right above the caret symbol in blue, so we'll hit second pi. So our t-bar here, our t-bar is going to be approximately, let's round to 3 decimal places, 0.358. Let's do another example. Okay. Let's say that t is equal to 5.2. So if we draw our circle here, this is when t was 0, or t was approximately, or t is 2 pi, t was approximately 6.28. Here t was pi, which is approximately 3.14. Here t was 3 pi over 2, which was approximately 4.7. Here t is pi over 2, so that's roughly 1.57. Okay, so let's figure out where we are at. So we're in 5.2 units, that's between 4.7 and 6.28, so we're somewhere in quadrant 4. So let's just say we're right here. Okay, so this is roughly a distance of 5.2 radians around the circle. So we want to figure out what our t-bar would be here. So that'll be this distance right here, t-bar. Let's think about the best way to do this. Well, what I'm going to notice for this example is if I go all the way around the circle, if I go all the way around, let's get a better red marker. If I go all the way around the circle, all the way around the circle is a distance of 2 pi. So if I take 2 pi and I subtract off the green, so going all the way around 2 pi, and I subtract off the green, I should be able to get what t-bar would be here. So for this example, t-bar is going to be equal to going all the way around the circle, which is 2 pi, and I'm going to subtract off our green, which is 5.2. So t-bar is going to be approximately equal to, let's see, we get 2 pi minus 5.2. Looks like, just rounding to 3 decimal places, I get 0.783. Okay, let's do one more example. Okay, so let's say that t is equal to, how about 2.5, and we want to find t-bar. So if I've walked 2.5 radians around the circle, that means I'm maybe roughly somewhere in here, somewhere in the second quadrant, because that's between 1.57 and 3.14. So I've moved a distance here. So this would be something, t would be 2.5. Now to figure out what our t-bar would be, that would be the shortest distance to the x-axis, so this is what we call t-bar. So how am I going to figure out this one? What's the easiest way to figure that out? Well, what I'm going to notice is if I go halfway around the circle, if I go a distance of pi units around the circle, I could take that distance pi, subtract off the green, subtract off the 2.5 to get our t-bar. So here, t-bar is going to be equal to pi minus 2.5. So we'll get pi minus 2.5. So it looks like we'll get 0.642 if we're rounding to 3 decimal places. So that's all I have for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.